Wow, that was amazing, Arthur. I feel special for that. Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Let me know. I can always raise my voice. As always, goes to 11. I go to 11. Thank you so much for having me. Always great to be here as a part of PMUT. I think this is my fourth time ish. So for all the OGs in the room, Arlie, Carrie, Liban, and I know some OGs are missing, but thanks for having me here. Feel like home. I will jump right into it. First of all, I just want to commend on anybody who had a speaking part today. Lovely to hear you all. Confidence is up there. Honest feedback, just great vibes. Keep it going. What I teach at George Brown is very in line with what's happening here from a facilitation and filler words and eye contact and all that stuff. So I loved sitting back and watching it happen. So keep it going. That's the best way to improve. All right, so today my presentation is going to be on two parts. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about project management and job market and what's happening there. That's always, I know it's on everybody's top of mind, since that's kind of the common denominator for everybody here, project management. So I thought, I did some digging on the data side of things. I pulled up some interesting insights, both within Jarvis and outside of Jarvis, just in the marketplace. So just wanted to share you some of those data. And then I'm going to talk to you, wrap it up with some advice, some thoughts around changing your mindset in the times of change. It's been interesting 2-3 years that they've been experiencing. It looks like 2023 is just going to be just as interesting in different ways. So just wanted to sort of put your mind there. Before moving there, I want to I don't have any slide on Jarvis. I just want to quickly do a 30-second plug on Jarvis. We're an IT consulting firm that we focus on servicing a specific segment of the marketplace that's very underserviced. And these are individuals who do have IT experience and knowledge, but they're having a tough time getting into the marketplace. So these would be recent grads, these would be individuals who recently immigrated to Canada, these would be individuals who went on a mat leave or a pat leave and they came back, individuals who are on on the spectrum that maybe having a tough time interviewing, but they're super knowledgeable, or individuals who immigrated to Canada, they used to do whatever they did back home, but they're having a tough time sort of cracking into the field. We have a talent incubation program that focuses more so on the data side of things. So data engineering, data analysis, full stack engineering of that sort. So it's a work-life simulation program. We hire individuals, they test. If they pass our initial test, they get into our program. They become a part of an agile team that works on whatever deliverables within a project they have to deliver, and that's kind of their course. That's their real life learning in a Canadian English-speaking agile environment. And once they go through that, and if we like their quality of work, they have a final exam. If they pass that exam, and during this whole time, they're employed by us full time. If they pass through the final exam, then they become a part of our bench. And then as a part of our bench, we deploy them on our client sites as a contractor, and our clients can hire them on a full time at any given time. So it's almost like a trial basis for clients to work with the talent that we have. So we guarantee the quality and we take all the risk. Clients can basically pick and choose. We have converted many individuals from our program into full-time employees at client sites. Right now, we have about 300 individuals that are on contract with us within the top 5 banks. Those are kind of our main clients. And when I talk about some of the data in the marketplace, a lot of it will be falling within the banking system. So I'll explain that. I will leave all the questions in for the end of the session. So please jot down all your questions. Maybe drop them in the chat. But I'll try to plow through my presentation and leave 5-10 minutes at the end to go through some Q&As. Sound good? With me? Awesome. All right. So my bio, I thought I'll do something different this time. I know Arthur did a great job. I know there's going to be a bio, but I thought I'll do something different. I'm only going to do numbers. I've never done this before, so bear with me. So I'm 43. I moved to Canada 24 years ago. So technically this year, officially, I've spent the bigger half of my my life on earth in Canada. My hometown is home country is Iran. I moved here when I was turning 20. I've been in the IT consulting, IT staffing space for the past 16 years. And as Arthur mentioned, I've helped hundreds of individuals find and connect to their next jobs, and also I've helped hundreds train to become recruiters and become account executives or talent advisors. That's the new buzzword. Help them how to find individuals, how to read resumes, how to qualify, how to interview prep candidates, how to find the nervous ones, how to help candidates get better at what they do, so on and so forth. And I find it very rewarding, both training and advising on talent. Two is for kids. I have two kids, 8 and 11. They're tearing the place down right now. Hopefully the roof doesn't fall on my head as I'm giving you this speech. And one dog, as mentioned, 3,398. Who wants to guess what this is? I'll give you one guess. That's the number of kilometers I cycled last year. I'm planning to double that. 15,597 meters is the amount that I climbed in the past year. So I'm hoping to double that this year as well. So those are just some random facts about my background. All right, let's jump right into it. Job market. So I'm going to talk about some of the numbers in 2023. And I'll give it some context. The clients that we work with, because of the type of the work that we do heavy work. Probably 90% of our work has done within the data and within the cloud space. So most of the numbers that I'll throw you, I'll sort of divvy up between what is the overall market and what we're seeing in the specific client space. So overall, IT spending is going to grow in 2023. Majority of it is because IT is kind of the backbone of most of the industries that you touch and you deal with. And in order to even stay afloat, you need to spend a ton of money in it to make sure your systems are up and running and you're using the most up-to-date versions that are the working version. So just to stay afloat, you're looking at a 4% grow in just the budget. 58% are still planning to invest in cloud, 44% in AI, 41% in data lakes and lake houses, API developments, and cybersecurity. So cloud and cybersecurity are the two big spaces that we're seeing, especially in Canada. We're very behind when it comes to moving to digitization and cloud. States is way ahead of us. So we're kind of lagging behind. We still have a lot of, a good chunk of our Canadian banks are using mainframe systems. And there's a whole talent shortage over there. But that just shows you how we're kind of making sure that it's safe before we move. So a lot of money being spent on cloud projects and digitizations. Companies in US, we're seeing that ServiceNow is a big need right now across the board. We're seeing COVID. So one of the things that COVID did, and you might have experienced it too, borders kind of became a non-issue. Time zones became a thing. So it was more about which time zone you were in rather than which country you were in. We saw a lot of our Ontario clients being open to hire, from Ottawa, from Montreal, or from Winnipeg, moving a little bit 1 or 2 hours here and there, kind of being more flexible with their core hours. So as opposed to, instead of asking you to be available for 8 hours, they would kind of say, hey, if you can mirror the 10 to 2, we're happy with that. Or if you can mirror the 12 to 4, and even within the existing clients, we're seeing teams having different norms. Especially on the IT side, on the development side, we see talent be a lot more dispersed across the board, just because there's more shortage on the tech development side of things. So we'll see teams that are spread all the way from Vancouver all the way across to Montreal, and even some in states, to be honest with you. Even though talent is more expensive in states, some teams, if they're desperate enough, to move down there. So from a job search perspective, I 100% encourage you to not really focus on postal codes or area codes or distances. because there are still a lot of companies that are staying remote. Yes, there is a big buzz around companies bringing workforces back and coming up with a new norms around how they want to have, like, what is it, the 2 days is norm, 3 days is norm. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of us have completely shifted lifestyles, and we're fully acquainted and used to 100% or close to 100% remote. And that will become a big recruiting factor, a big selling point for companies who are going to stay. There's a lot of buzz with banks right now trying to make a 3-day work week, and that's going to turn a lot of workforces off. So just from being on a job hunt, job search side of things, if you can work from home, if you have that capacity and flexibility, I would say definitely open up your job search filters when you're searching, and it's one of the common filters now to have a remote as one of your filters when you're searching. So open up the horizons for sure. US and Canada work very interchangeably from a workforce perspective, and visas are very, very, very easy to obtain on both sides of the border. I want to quickly mention, now it's specifically talking about the type of clients that we work with. Banks' fiscal years start in November and it end in October, and they go quarter by quarter like any other business. Typically, in a normal year, budgets are approved in the beginning of the year, and they're kind of, the floodgates are open, and that's when they decide who they're going to hire, what projects they're going to roll out, and they make all those sort of planning around talent and budgets and projects around then. So we are very busy normally around November time. However, this time around, as some of you might have heard, there were some rumblings around recession. Are we in recession? Are we going to go into recession? What's happening with the job market? Is Ukraine-Russia going to be a full-on war? Is COVID going to come back with another, God knows whatever round it is at? So interest rates are obviously trying to, mitigate the risk. So banks, being banks, counting every penny, are the first ones to be very, very cautious around their spending. So the sort of data that I'm going to give you, these are coming from actual conversations with hiring managers on the ground. This is not a copy and paste from a newspaper or a website. These are actual conversations we're having. So I tried to kind of summarize some of the industry news that we're developing internally to curate and share it with you. But overall, what we've been hearing is that the first 2 quarters are going to be slow. They're kind of holding off on really hiring full-time resources, only kind of moving forward with contract resources and emergency projects. That's because the business they're in, and they're, they work around risk. But there are a lot of projects that are kind of in the oven, ready to go, but they're waiting for the approvals to happen. Out of all the banks, though, Citibanks, for whatever reason, they're moving completely away, not completely, but heavily away from contract resources and investing heavily into full-time IT resources. There is a crazy amount of cost that comes with using third-party consulting or solution service providers, just because their margins and markups are insane. For instance, if a bank hires, or a developer that would cost any company, let's say $60 or $70 an hour, if anyone's hiring that individual through a Deloitte or PwC or Accenture or any of those type of or IBM, they're paying anywhere around $200 to $250 an hour, and that's just one individual. And in banks, you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of these contract resources. So it's very exciting to see Citibanks investing into full-timers, because that just shows that they believe in their presence in Canada. They believe in the market to turn around. So eventually they'll save tons of money with hiring full-timers, because they're not paying consultants hourly margin. But from all the clients that kind of are slowing down on the banking side, Citibank is the only one who's sort of moving full force, and they have a lot on the go that they're actioning on. So keep in mind. CIBC, on the other hand, another interesting news, not public yet. I don't think so, but they're moving towards rebranding themselves as a newcomer bank and planning to hire a lot of newcomers in the next 6 to 12 months, which is, again, super exciting. It's a gap in our marketplace with bringing on talented immigrants, but not being able to bridge their experience and the actual job market. So CIBC, be on the lookout for the type of jobs that they're posting and apply to them directly. Scotiabank, as always, Scotiabank is continuing to develop in Latin America. If any of you speak Spanish as a first, second, or third language, I would highly recommend to reach out to Scotiabank. They have a lot on the go, and there's a lot of roles that are remotely, and a lot of that timeline falls within our time zones. Manulife, another client that we're working with, they're heavily moving to data cybersecurity and cloud, just like most of our other banks, a lot in the oven. A lot of projects moving from waterfall to agile, and waterfall slowly disappearing. One recently that we worked with was Sun Life. In some of the banks, we're seeing some 2-week mandatory furloughs to sort of take advantage of the slow time. And some CIBC projects we've seen it's putting on hold until Q3, not fully shelved, but they're kind of on pause. So heavily on the banking side, as you see, but banking is literally just one slice of our economy. Another side I want to talk to you about is project management job market. So we talked about just overall projects, not specifically to any industry or some banking. Now I want to kind of talk about project management positions, regardless of their industry itself. So lots and lots of project manager and project coordinator jobs posted outside of banking sector. Even within banking sector, literally today, I was a part of a conversation that we hired a project coordinator to put into one of the banks. So even though things are slow, but if anything's happening, it's a project, and the projects need project managers. So that's you need the driver to drive the car. So at least for now, anyways. So PCOs, project managers, we're still seeing them, but just looking outside of the banks, right now, just in the past week in Canada, there was 4,700 jobs posted that had project management mentioned in it, whether there were project coordinator jobs or whether there were program manager jobs or project manager jobs. But interestingly enough, to sort of support the fact that I mentioned in the previous slide, 4,000 of those 4,700 jobs were full-time jobs. And as I said, many of them outside of the banking sector, construction, civil, retail, engineering, and IT and government public sector type opportunities. So I tend to often talk about IT a lot because my background's been in IT, but project management is one of those things that kind of crosses borders into different industries. So something to keep in mind. First-hand experience, I was looking in our system. Most recent project coordinator we placed on the junior side, they were at the 45. So entry-level kind of project coordinator positions, then again within banks, and the junior project manager / intermediate, I would say around $66 an hour that they would pay. As far as the full-time salaries go, in 2022, we saw salaries go from 80K all the way to 130K. Obviously, when you're talking about full-time, there's a whole package that comes with it that contractors don't see around RESPs and pensions and benefits and vacations and health and all that stuff that wouldn't be a part of a contracting world. But those are the salaries we're seeing within the banks. Some interesting data. I will wrap up the first part of the presentation with some data. Facts, not much numbers. I wanted to focus on interview process. We were doing some research around the quality of candidates that we're putting in the loop. Who's winning, who's not winning, why they're winning. Is there something that we're doing that our candidates are winning? Can we do something better? and kind of diving it a little bit further down into roles, right? Technical roles, functional roles, techno-functional roles. And on the project management side, it was very interesting. So 90% of the candidates who were rejected from project management interviews with our clients it was because they were not being able to clearly communicate specific scenarios and examples to connect past experience to the questions asked, right? So when you can't speak to your experience, right? Then again, I don't want to go on a tangent about resumes. Resumes are your ticket to get you that interview. Once you go into that interview room, though, that resume doesn't mean anything. So it doesn't matter how amazing that resume is or how well written it is or how many mistakes it has in it. You're there. It did its job to get you there. And I know we spend a lot of time prettifying the resume and making sure it stands out from thousands of resumes and keywords and all that stuff, which is awesome. But I think even more effort should go into being able to speak to your experience. And then again, being here as a part of PMUT and working on your delivery and your pitch, super important, and practice is the best way to do it. You just don't want to do that practice in a live interview format, right? As a project manager, your key tool is your communication skill. So you want to be able to be a master at that. In any situation that you've mentioned, any bullet that you have on your resume, you should be able to clearly speak it out and give examples on, the whole SMART way of answering questions, right? Given a situations STAR method, not did I say SMART? STAR method, situation, task, action, and result, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. The other 10% was team fit. And that mainly, we really see that when it comes to full-time opportunities. Because on the contract side, it's really about the skill set. Can you do the job? Great, then come in and get the job done within that given time. Nobody's there for a long period of time. It's almost like dating and marriage. That's what I compare it to. Now you can go on a date, but marriage, you're kind of, you're there all the time. So full-time and contract, see it as that. If you're going into a full-time opportunity and you're interviewing, make sure that you're really connecting with the person who you're interviewing with, especially if that's a person that you'll be working closely with. So make sure it's a dialogue as opposed to just sitting back and waiting to get interrogated with all the questions. Nobody wants to just ask questions. It's good to have a back and forth. Technical background is always preferred, always and always and always. So whether you're coming from an infrastructure background, whether you're coming from a data background, whether you're coming from development hands-on with coding background, make sure you don't bury that stuff. Make sure you highlight it. Being able to talk to tech, it always puts you ahead of the rest. And one thing that we're seeing more, industry is not as much an important piece that we've seen in the past. We're seeing more and more on the project management side, right? Then again, if the project itself is demanding you to know a specific knowledge because that you're trying to improve a process that's very specific to that industry, that's a different story. But in general, as long as you're fitting their budgets and you're fitting the skill sets, industry kind of takes the backseat. So then again, keep in mind, if you're spending any time, your focus should be on the selling your experience, improving the sell piece, and building your tech specs. All right. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about changing your mindset. Why did I decide to talk about this? Is because of just the past couple of years. A lot has happened in the past couple of years. All of us, most if not all of us, have been put in situations that we're not comfortable with, we're not used to. And being in your position, which you add job search on top of that, you might be new to Canada on top of that. There's a lot of unknown, there's a lot of things that are not necessarily in your control. For me, what happened to me recently was, I'll tell you the personal story. and it was around all the stuff that's happening in Iran. If you've heard, or if you've know any friend who's Persian, or you've seen the news, since the past bunch of months, there's a lot of stuff that's happening in Iran around just freedom and having freedom. Don't want to get too political around that stuff, but the quality of life is not great. The government's not really kind to people. I still have a lot of friends and family back home that I try to keep in touch with, and especially women in that country. Cousins and sisters and grandmas are going through a really tough time in the past 40 years. But most recently, it really kind of hit the fan to a point that the young girl was killed just for her hijab, and it was just really bad situation. It just basically exploded, and it turned into a situation that's out of control. Me being here, having a job, going about my life, you start seeing it on the social platforms of stuff that's happening. Cousins are posting things, friends are posting things, and you've seen about quality of life deteriorating, and it's becoming more unstable, and human rights being violated. And you're kind of question, okay, so I at least question myself, so what can I do? Every morning I would wake up, and because of the time difference, I would wake up, the first thing that I would see on my phone was all the stuff that was happening real time in Iran with their time change. And you're trying to process, right? So as an Iranian who left, and you still have a lot of friends and family back home, what can you do to help out, right? And it's just this helplessness was eating me out. I didn't know what can I do to be able to move on and move forward with life, right? Because I just didn't think it was right for me to just ignore, but also there was no really channel for me to contribute properly. I didn't think a hashtag is going to do much, or a like or a heart or a comment is going to really change the reality of what's happening on the ground level there. It got to a point that I honestly couldn't work anymore. I started taking mental days, and speaking to friends in different parts of the world, speaking to whenever I could to friends and family in Iran. And there was really nothing I could do, like nothing was really, I couldn't do anything to help, right? There was nowhere to send money. There was nowhere for me to complain properly for anybody to hear. There was a lot of petitions were happening, that would get United Nations to pay attention to it. But basically, it absolutely crippled me. It got to a point that I couldn't do anything, because I found myself in a situation that I wanted to help that I couldn't. And that's when I kind of had to step back and really revisit the whole thing and my approach into how am I digesting the situation right now, and how can I do better. It kind of reminded me of something that I was so I stepped back and I said, what can I control? What is in my control out of this entire scenario? What I want to accomplish, and what can I control in reality, not in my wish and dream, right? Realistically, the only thing that I could do was to help make this message get louder and louder, to get to a point that it's some authorities here. And that's about it. That's really all I can do. So if and when I found a source that was reliable, I would try to echo it and share it with powers to be, and sign whatever petitions I could. But then after that, nothing else is in my control what happens there. So I tried to make it my goal that I want to make it as public as possible. And then I started focusing on what I could focus on. And that kind of became my motto. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. Funny enough, it kind of reminded me of what I train recruiters on in our industry. And I preach them on things that they can control. So in recruiting, we're kind of in the middle, right? We deal with candidates on this side, and then we deal with clients on this side. These two parties might like each other, might hate each other. but we have no control. We do a lot of work for clients and we do a lot of work for candidates. We put a lot of effort into this relationship to come to fruition. But once they go into that room, there is absolutely no control we can have over the dynamic, over the conversation that happened there. So, and it could be very, very frustrating when you absolutely bend over backward for a client to get them what they need, and then you go get the right candidate and bring them to the right opportunity that they wanted to, and then you really think you did your job, and then they come out of the room and they're like, what the hell was that, Sam? Why would you put me in front of that client? Or why would you put me, like, share that candidate with me? And it's out of our control, right? And that makes our industry very, very hard to deal with. In most industries, you are in control of what you're selling or what you're buying. Not in recruiting, because you're dealing with people, and people have their own mind and whole decisions to make up. So fast forward to what I learned. Any situation has various elements, right? You got to consider what is important and what is not, right? Analyze what you can control and what you can't control. There's a lot of things that we can't control, but they upset us, they impact us in negative ways, and they limit us from moving forward because we try to focus on something that we can't really change, right? The goal is to put all your efforts, the key is to put all your efforts into what you can control. The rest, you gotta learn how to brush it off, and it is not easy, right? Worrying is very natural. You want to worry about things because you want to control things, but you got to realize certain things are not in your control, and you have to focus your efforts into what you can control. And I'll put the word of the day for you: strategize, right? You can't just react to things and hope for things to happen. You really need to have a plan of action. In fact, to really summarize it, this kind of says it all, right? There are things that matter and the things that you can control. You should only focus on things that matter that you can control, period, right? Million other things are out there. I'm a dad of 2 kids. I'm learning how to be a father, and control from a parenthood is, as a whole other challenge, and I'm learning a lot of things. And that's another thing that I have to keep reminding myself: this I can control, this I can't control, this I shouldn't control. But the more you realize you should focus on things that are at your in hand, the better you progress, right? And why am I talking to you about this right now? I want to talk to you about this because where we are right now from a marketplace perspective, right? A lot of things are unknown, lots and lots of things, right? Recession could happen, could also not happen. Interest rates could go up or could stay like the way they are, right? Companies could lay off or could hire, depending on what else is happening. Global warming, it could be a lot of snow or no snow or heat, none of that in our control, right? COVID can come and go. I don't want to scare anyone here, by the way. I just want to kind of bring you all the things that might be in your head that you're trying to process, right? But I want to also zoom it all in for you to the things that you can control, right? Because also there's a lot of things you can control. So I want to kind of use this time and remind you that you might be like, oh my God, job market this, I'm trying to get my first project management role. How am I going to do this? But this is happening. That let's talk about all the things that you can control. So your attitude, right? Just walking around, the way you're carrying yourself, man, does it ever have an impact on people around you, right? I can't stress how often we have taken a risk and a chance with a candidate who was not qualified from a skill perspective, but the attitude that they brought into the room, we're like, holy, we want to have this person on the team. Because attitude, you can't really teach that. I mean, you could teach that, but most people don't want to invest in your attitude and hire you at the same time, right? That's just way too much. You either have the attitude, I'll hire you, right? Or I'll go find someone who has it, right? So mirror, look in the mirror. Are you portraying what you want and who you want to be, Your effort. This is very important. Are you giving it all? Are you giving it all you got at work, at home, in the society? More and more specifically, your quest for knowledge, right? This is huge. In times of unknown, you still have access to knowledge. I hope all of you know about ChatGPT. I hope all of you have like stepped back and like poured yourself a coffee or a tea and really digested what does that mean to your career, right? Don't worry about the world, then you can't control the world. In skill set that you have, what is going to be replaceable, right?
I didn't get that.
How can you use ChatGPT in order to upskill, not to compete against? There's a lot of cool things that's going to come with it, but you can also sit back and worry about it. There hasn't been more access to free knowledge or super cheap knowledge and data right now than ever before. Right now, LinkedIn has platforms, libraries, you sign up, you get free access to different learnings online, super cheap courses that are out there, free courses that are out there, meetups like this that you're attending, which shows that you have the right attitude and you're putting the effort in, right? Be mindful and have your ears and eyes open as what's happening in the marketplace. The things that I mentioned, at least from my point of view, cloud data security, cloud transformation is huge in our world right now. And that's just what it is. It's that and it's AI. These are the two big things that I'm seeing moving and being a big part of our lives moving forward. And so now you have to think about, from a project management perspective, how these two or three worlds intertwine. Where is it that you can gain more knowledge? What is it that you're passionate about that gets you excited? And you kind of work on the overlap of all those things. Your mental health, I can't stress that enough. It's your body and it's your mind. You gotta work on both together, and that's something that I'm putting a huge emphasis on since the beginning of pandemic. I played sports, but it was for fun. It wasn't really for staying in shape. I've kind of shifted that this year, and I've stopped team sports and I'm cycling and I'm indoor exercising, waking up early to exercise in the morning. I can't tell you how much it's impacted my attitude, in my intake of information, in my working relationships. And then again, it's fully intertwined together. You can't be super smart and sharp, but lead an unhealthy physical life, and vice versa. They just fully go together. I know you know this, but just a reminder, things that you can control. That's what we're talking about. Physical health, mental health, I talked about it. Continuous improvement, I mentioned quest for knowledge. Continuous improvement. Are you improving every day? Kaizen, if anybody knows about Kaizen, hopefully you know. If you don't, please look it up. It's an amazing methodology, way of life that comes from Japan. And I was lucky to work in a Japanese company for a couple of months one summer, and man, did they ever live and breathe it every day. So to me, that was an example I carry with me all the time. So continuous improvement. In times, nobody else controls how much you learn and how often you learn. And that's the difference between you and the next person that's going to go to interview. So how you prep for your interviews, how much do you research the company going in, how much you've studied before the test, all those things, how much you've exercised before the match, all those things are fully in your control. So whatever that's going to happen to economy will happen to economy, whatever that's going to happen to war will happen to war, but none of that should impact the things that are in your control. Your attitude can stay the way that you want it to be, and your effort can be whatever you want it to be. It's up to you, right? So all these other elements, leave them out, focus on what you can, and you'll get there. Then again, learning and growing your network, which is what you're doing right now. It's imperative, and I can't stress how important it is. And it's all about who you know more than what you know, in just like in any other place. So keep networking, keep reaching out to hiring managers, keep building networks, keep going to these meetups like this. and asking questions and learning about others and teaching others about you. That's what it comes down to. Thank you so much. I will pause here for any questions you might have.